Hello and welcome everyone to another podcast. This time we are in the land of sushi and wasabi. We're in Japan for the Japanese Grand Prix. Who would have believed that one? Um, Normal race weekend this time around, short qualifying, 50% race, for 7 divisions going for it. And I've got Blade with me once again. And I think we can all agree that it was an interesting weekend. We also had dry and wet weather races. So, yeah, drivers had to pull through whether it was sunny or very, very wet in the end. With also some intermediate conditions as well. So, yeah, looking at the only track on the calendar that's formed like an 8, I think we just head over to Division 1 immediately. And in Division 1, it was Welsh Jack who got pole position, but it was Blade who won the race with fastest lap as well from P2 on the grid. Then we've had Pablo on his debut in P2, Max Souza in P3, staying penalty free like the leader. Beeford in P4, starting from P10, Snipes in P5, Exotic Plains in P6, Ham in P7, Top Neo Racer in P8, and Drazzy in P9. Sadly, many DNFs for Atom, which is myself obviously, Sora, Darnell, Gibson, Alex, Ghost, Torpen, Vinci, David, Sam, and Welsh Jack as well. Looking at the driver standings, Snipes leads the way with 169 points, 5 points ahead of Ham, who sits on 164. Then we've got Beeford going into third now in the championship with 131 points, and Welsh Jack on 125. Radius in P5 on 97 points, and Blade already in P6 with 88 points. Then we've got Mark Souza moving up 3 positions into P7 with 58 points. Ghost Junior on 44, Sora on 43, and also Jaeger still staying on 43. So those 3 drivers not really making any progress recently. Looking at the Constructors' Championship, Alpine obviously still leads the way on 294 points, with Alfa Romeo on 207. Mercedes then in third position on 172, and Aston Martin on their toes on 156 points in P4. So very decent season so far for Aston Martin in the Division 1 Constructors. McLaren then moving up 2 positions with 119 points, obviously down to the race win of Blade, with Hassan 112 and Red Bull on 99, dropping down 1 position each. Ferrari with 99 points, coming from the P3 of Mark Souza, jump up to P8, while Williams drop another position to P9 of 84 points, and AlphaTauri stay on their 10 points. I mean, that's 2 in a row, isn't it, Blade? And that's, well, I haven't mentioned it was wet, but even though it looked quite calm and controlled, and probably, yeah, to everyone out there, not really a struggle for you, still was a quite tough race, wasn't it, in the wet out there?
Yeah, I mean, quite a few safety cars. I think. I I think there was 3. I can't really remember. So had to
There was
manage a
3,
couple of
yes.
those. So yeah, wasn't ideal really because I think had there been no safety cars, I think I would have pulled a bit of a gap to the field because it seemed like I had pretty good race, pretty good pace at the front. So, yeah, obviously managed to get past Welsh Jack on lap 1, who had a bit of a moment. I can't remember what the corner's called. Is it Dunlop, the one that left-hander up the hill? Uh,
Yes, that's Dunlop, yeah,
yeah,
sector, yeah.
Dunlop. So he had a moment on lap 1. I managed to. I knew obviously overtaking the rain is pretty hard on any F1 game, so I was like, this is my moment, and I went for a pretty aggressive move, but I think it was fair enough, and yeah, unfortunately for Welshchuk, I think his setup was not ideal for the wet weather, so he fell backwards and ended up retiring. So yeah, after that, I think was getting hunted down by Mark Sosa at the start, but I think pace was pretty similar, and then Pablo in the second half of the race after Mark Sosa picked up some damage. But Pablo kept me honest, but then picked up a penalty. So yeah, was a bit more relaxed, but I still wanted to win on track, so kept P1 and crossed the line with P1 with the fastest lap as well, which was lovely, extra point. So
Yeah, I mean, also good for, I mean, say the championship, but closing up the gap once again. But also for the other drivers, I mean, you could obviously say Welsh Jack, that race wasn't ideal for him, but Beeford gained points on Snipes. Ham didn't lose too much, only 2 points, so it still stays close. But it looks like not only Welsh Jack, but especially Beeford probably need a race win soon to keep Snipes and Ham really honest. Otherwise, this could become a two-way fight quite soon.
yeah, they're falling back a little bit, obviously. So I think they need a big haul of points soon enough to be able to, be right back up with them. But we know Ham and Snipes are a good driver, so there's just as big a chance of them winning another race as those two. But yeah, hopefully an opportunity arises for one of them in the near future, and I'm sure they'll try and take advantage of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, not too much to say really this week at after Japan because as I said, the championship is a little bit spaced out in the constructors. Not too much to say. Obviously, we start off the podcast, so we don't know how all the other teams really have done. I mean, as said, maybe worth to mention, McLaren have moved up 2 positions down to your win. I mean, it could have been many more though if Gibson kept his car straight, at least on straight. Uh, what
Yeah,
what happened there?
not yeah. Well, funnily enough, I talked to Gibson earlier, and he said he just lost concentration behind the safety car, and I think just spun off and crashed. So yeah, it was not great because he was actually, with the amount of penalties that were ahead of him, he probably would have moved up,
Yeah,
potentially like a P4. But and also I remember me and you, Atom, were talking about his odd strategy, staying out for the first safety car. But he said that's because Beeford was his teammate, obviously, because we were in the multiplayer cars, and Beeford was a car ahead of him, so he couldn't pit, which was unlucky for him. But yeah, obviously, I'm sure he's even more disappointed that he couldn't, potentially even get a podium. Probably a bit
I
unlikely,
mean,
but
should have passed
yeah.
Beeford into the pit lane.
Yeah. I mean, he certainly passed more cars staying out. It just wasn't really, didn't really end up well with the
Yeah.
tyres. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Alpha Tower is still on plus points. So, I mean, they are
yeah.
certainly staying where they should be in the plus.
Yeah. I
But
assume
yeah,
they've got least points of
I
any
mean, I
team
think,
in all divisions.
yeah, I think we should praise Aston Martin, at least in this division, before we go on to the other ones, because at least here they're keeping themselves up there. I mean, well, it's not been the best of races for Aston Martin in general, at least for the full-time drivers. I mean, Pablo has scored points for them, which has made them keep the position. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's that. That's Japanese, Spanish, and Canadian podium. That was certainly a debut of this combination. But yeah, well, this is Division 1, and I would say we just head over to Division 2, where this week it was Shock Shinte Bass once more, who wins just about less than 800s, ahead of his teammate Dylan Baxter, who actually qualified on pole position. Then Jamie Hobbs in P3, Partig in P4, Savage Cabbage in P5, Jam in P6, Amos Lloyd in P7 with fastest lap, TRX Jans in P8, Tom in P9, and Wylad in P10. Further finishes were then AMS Cole, FG Jake, and FG Dom. Yeah, looking at the Drivers' Championship, Gente Vaz extends his championship lead even further. He now sits on 179 points, and then we've got SLI Jam on 144, Hobson on 140, with Dylan Baxter moving up to P4 with 110 points. GMLFC MC then on 98 points, dropping down a position obviously, and Cole on 92, with Slapbus on 78, Savage Cabbage on 70 and Partick on 64. So those two move up positions. Partick actually 3 and Beatty Jordan on 62 points. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes still lead the way with 259 points and therefore also extend the championship lead. In P2, we've got Haas on 192 points. Alfa Romeo then moving up to third on 153 points, Ferrari on 151, and AlphaTauri on 143. McLaren sadly dropping down 3 full positions with 140 points, and Red Bull on 124. Level on points with Alpine, who also on 124. There you go, Aston Martin only in P9 with 114 points. And Williams clearly off the pack here with only 43 points for them. I mean, this is becoming the same topic every week at this point. Mercedes are very strong, but Gente Vaz, he's carrying, even though Stillen's finished P2. I mean, he really wants this championship wrapped up early.
Yeah, I mean, he's having win after win. Really, he can't get enough of the top step. So yeah, someone needs to stop him. He's making this championship a bit boring.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his recent results since Spain, when those divisions like top of Division 3 and Division 2 have emerged, P1, P1, P5, P2, P1, P1. Out of the last 6 races, he's won 3, and once he wasn't on the podium, which still was P5. I mean, if he keeps this statistic or streak up, I think it's mathematically impossible to beat him. Almost, but yeah, I mean, I said Jam has struggled a little bit recently, same as Hobbs, who hasn't scored many points. I mean, he finished third now at Japan, but yeah, I said also with Dylan coming now, it looks like Mercedes can get away from Haas a little bit, but behind Haas, it's all going on, isn't it? Because there's literally P3 and P9 still within 39 points, I believe, which is amazing and basically what you want to see, especially when it's also quite close in the midfield of the overall constructors.
Yeah, it's very close. Obviously, last week McLaren, Alfa Romeo, and Red Bull, Ferrari were all separated by 1 point. Obviously, they're not separated by 1 point anymore because strong weekends by Alfa Romeo and Ferrari have helped them jump forward a bit. Another good weekend as well for AlphaTauri, I believe, who seem to have jumped up quite a few spots.
Yep.
So yeah, well, really, obviously a shame McLaren couldn't stay with them, but I think at this rate they're catching Haas ahead of them. So it will, well, if another week like this, and it'll be another three-way fight this time for second position in the championship. So yeah, I think like you say, I think Mercedes are gone, obviously, unless something happens where one of their drivers can't make it anymore. For example, they've got 2 drivers who are pretty much there every week, and pretty much both will probably be in the top 5 every single race. So Mercedes, certainly have a comfortable margin with 2 great drivers, but the battle for second is still most definitely on, all the way down to P6 McLaren, and you could probably put even Aston Martin, maybe. Well, they're quite far behind, but not as far behind. I think 1, 2 away from third place. So
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
they're there or thereabouts, unless a certain other team, which is not there or
yeah. If we just
thereabouts.
forget about Williams, so
Oh, I thought we were talking about Mercedes. Well,
yeah,
uh,
large gap from the team at the front, and large gap to the team in last. So
yeah, well, I mean, 210, more than 210 points difference already. Well, it's not looking too good for Williams, but I think, well, they haven't got a podium, but they've got a pole. Don't ask me where that's come from. At least they had 9 retirements, so well,
yeah,
not ideal for them. Let's head over to Division 3 though, and you'll be shocked who's won this race. Avenica's got pole, Avenica's got fastest lap, and Avenica's won the race from pole position. And we've got AJ Nolan in P2, started from P4, and Michael in P3, started P11. Luca Bedan in P4, Aram Lawn in P5, Boosted Abbey in P6, Cam in P7, Rambo in P8, Heated in P9, and Dom in P10, with a DSQ for our commentator, Tichiash, in P11. So he sadly did not know how to enter the pit lane, which is unfortunate because it's probably the lowest speed you're going to be going for the whole race. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, Avenicus obviously extends his championship. He's now sitting on 170 points and already mentioned that he wants to be the driver of the biggest points haul at the end of the season. Celadon on 138 points and Boosted on 135. So those two swap positions. And we've got Mac on 108, Shimbash on 89, some Pikachu on 84, Lawn on 75, Apex on 74, Yasin on 64, and Croaky on 57, same as Cami. Looking at the team standings, AlphaTauri obviously extend the gap once again. They now sit on 298 points, with Red Bull on 202, less than 10 points ahead of Mercedes on 193. And we've got Ferrari on 169 and Alpine on 130. Alfa Romeo then on 93 points. McLaren moving up a position into P7 with 81 points and Haas on 72. Aston Martin then on 65 points in P9 and Williams in P10 on 34. So, well, once again, it seems like Williams is a little bit off the pack. This championship in general is a bit more split up in the constructors, but yeah, looking at the drivers and especially the race result, I mean, Avenicus is concerning for everyone else in this division.
yeah. I mean, it's a similar story to Genta Bars, isn't it? He's just getting win after win now. So, yeah, very strong driver in this division. To get pole win and the fastest lap in 2 races in a row is pretty ridiculous. So, yeah, at least with Avenicus, we know he has a big weakness in that he tends to like a good bottle. So,
Yes.
um,
I mean, we haven't
it's still.
mentioned actually that he didn't win it on track, did we?
Oh yeah, he didn't, did he? Yeah.
No, Michael won,
So
but he got the penalty.
yeah, I can't remember what the incident was about. I
At
can't
the
lie, but
hairpin, he rear-ended Cammy, which is
uh,
something you should not
well,
do. And
yeah. Taking inspirations from Sergio Perez because he's also in a Red Bull, I'm pretty sure. So
oh yes, yeah, he is. Well,
yeah.
but I don't think Michael is that bad, is he?
No, no, definitely
Perez
not.
would never be in Division 3, so he'll be Division 10 for sure. But yeah, as we said, Avenicus, I mean, results once again. Since Spain, P2, P2, P1 with fastest lap, P6 with fastest lap, P1 with fastest lap, P1 with fastest lap. I mean, he racks up the fastest laps as well. So he's completed 8 races, including 2 sprints. In the 2 sprints, he's got 2 fastest sprint laps. In the 8 completed races, he's had 5 podiums, 5 fastest laps, 3 wins, and he's also racked up 4 pole positions. So I think the points he gained by poles and fastest laps would probably put him like P25 or so, which is already quite remarkable. But yeah, I mean, if he stays that dominant, maybe at some point we're going to be able to say the championship is between Michael and Boosted because Avenicus just goes up to Division 2, which I think at this point is probably also an option, isn't it? Do you reckon he would be able to fight the people in Division 2, or do you think it's just a step too far for now?
I definitely think he could. Especially I know in his quali times are really strong and can even compete with the likes of Gente on some tracks. But uh, like I said, I think his consistency isn't quite there yet. But you know, the best way to improve your race pace and your consistency is to race against better drivers. And obviously, you know, that's not to put any of the Division 3 drivers in. You know, I'm not saying that these guys aren't good drivers because they are. Division 3 is extremely competitive, and probably you'd see a lot of these guys in Division 1 and other leagues. But obviously, you know, you learn even more racing against a new batch of drivers, especially in the you know one division up. So I think it'd be good for him, and it would also be good for the Div 3 title. But we'll have to see really because you know I had this as well in season 2, but it's quite hard to give up a championship that you know not confident, but you think you have a good chance of winning. So
Yeah.
maybe you know Avenicus obviously doesn't want to. I remember back in season 2, I was a bit 50-50. I kind of wanted to win a title, but also I did want to race in Division 1 as well. So um,
Yeah, I think it's maybe a bit
yeah.
different, you know. So like from move to Division 3 to Division 2, it's
Yeah, I was
not
gonna say
mega.
that too. Yeah.
But if you move
So
Division 2 to Division 1, I think that's probably an even bigger boost. And I mean, as said, he's got great pace. If he gets his race pace and consistency sorted, I think we might as well see him in Division 1 next season if he really makes a big step. Because we've seen it last season. If you make one step, why don't make another one? Yeah. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
we'll
believe he hasn't
probably
even
see.
been racing for too long, has he? League
Yeah, no.
racing, so
His first ever
he's
league
got a lot
race
of
was
time to
this
learn. Yeah,
season. His first ever
yeah,
league race was GRL Round 3 this season, which is crazy. It's basically
yeah.
2 months ago. And the first one, yeah, his one basically is. Let me check this real quick. He's won. Okay, only his fifth one. Well, only. It took me longer. No, it actually didn't take me longer. I won my first ever league race. That's just skill. But yeah, I mean, maybe Boosted would be happy because he would have less concrete. And maybe Michael and Boosted would be an interesting championship fight, especially as it's AlphaTauri versus Red Bull. But even you reckon this is a very Avenicus base today. But do you reckon if Avenicus like would be gone for the rest of the season, do you think Red Bull would have a chance on the constructors' championship still, or is that a massive gap to claw back?
Well, how many rounds are left? We're about less than halfway through the
Yeah, less
season,
than
right?
halfway.
So I think there's enough time for Red Bull to claw back the gap, but obviously Boosted is one of the best drivers in the division, so yeah, it might be difficult. Also, you know, or we will assume that someone will be replacing Avenicus, and you know, it's a bit of a 50-50, isn't it? Really, when either someone moves up from the division below as well, or it could be that a reserve becomes a full time driver. You know, sometimes you can get a good teammate who's you know scoring loads of points for you, or you can have a teammate that is only your teammate for 2 rounds, and then you have another teammate who is also only your teammate for 1 round. So yeah, we'll see. I think it'll be difficult, but there is enough time. So if it was just Michael and boosted, if Michael has a strong season, uh, there could they could get them. I don't know. His teammate is Ishum Basha, I think, right?
Yes.
So, and he's a very strong driver. When he turns up, I'm sure he's pretty
3
much always
races, 3
contending.
podiums.
Yeah, he's always contending for, yeah, like you say, at least a podium. So, um, yeah, uh, it's a hard question to answer, but I think with their gap, I'd still put my money on AlphaTauri, but you
Yeah.
know, I could see it where Red Bull
I mean,
get back past their
after
junior
last
team, you know.
season, we basically need to pray the Boosted wins something because we were pushing him the whole season, but he was doing nothing to put that Williams on the top step. And yeah, I mean, he's only had 1 win now, but yeah, as I said, Michael has had 2 wins, Boosted had 1 win. Then we've got Maka, who's had 0 wins, but should probably turn up again. Bash has had 0 wins. Some Pikachu 2 wins. Where's he gone? But yeah. Mm, one last thing though, talking about new drivers. I mean, we've mentioned him before. Our good old commentator of Titchy Ash. I mean, I don't mind him driving the Yacht Division 3 race. Obviously, it's good to see new faces. But I mean, what do you think is the main issue when you can't enter pit lane?
Well, let's just say at least he was also laughing, so at least he enjoyed it. No, yeah, I think it was a bit of an unfortunate incident to be honest, because obviously I can't remember how he. I think there was a pile up in the pit lane, was there?
Yeah, and I think he
Uh,
locked the race or something.
Yeah, he looked the rears and obviously stopped. And I think he was in too high a gear to accelerate away properly, so he just got disqualified. So, yeah, pretty amusing. I think anyone who was watching this stream would also have had a good laugh as well. But you know, props to him. He stayed in the lobby and did the rest of the race as commentator. So, you
Yeah,
know,
that was nice.
that, yeah, what a guy. So he
Yeah.
just he can get a couple points just for doing that, you know.
Yes. Well,
Hopefully they go to Williams, you know, because well, I mean,
he'll
you
go
know, they've
McLaren.
scored, they've scored for the first time I think in 4 or 5 races the Williams have this weekend. So I think we need to have a Williams pity party, you know.
I can tell you in a second. So Williams have scored this season 0 points, 10 points, 0 points, 5 points, 0 points, 6 points, nothing, nothing, 0 points, 13 points.
Yeah. So
13. They've scored the 5th highest amount. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, not like there were too many drivers, but
that's pretty good for Williams, isn't
for
it? So
Williams it is good, yeah. 4th highest. So, yeah, they are pushing up the ranks
yeah, I mean they've
almost.
got to push a lot harder to get even from last, but you know, at least they've got their good old mates in Aston Martin with them at the bottom. So you know,
I mean, well, this looks like it's gonna be a season-long battle for the wooden spoon. Well, anyways,
yeah,
we move over to Division 4. Pole position went to Bright. Fastest lap went to Bright. P1 didn't go to Bright. It was Jesper who won in the Red Bull from P2 in the grid. Bright, though, then in P2, so almost maximum points for him. Then Neb Restrom in P3. Sonic in P4, while Josh, his teammate, in P5. Ayahuasca in P6. Raven West in P7. Ronnie Rosie in P8, Rimmer Banjo in P9, and ARL Bob in P10. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, Raven West still leads the way with 164 points. Then we've got Brighton 147, so he's closing down that gap. Ronnie then moves up into P3 of the championship with 106 points. So it's good to see him improving. Captain Daniel then on 104 points after, yeah, I think we can both agree, a questionable incident on the safety car restart. RM James then on 98 points and Koi on 91, with White Josh in P7 on 88 points and Jesp on 82 points. Quell on 80 points in P9 and Sonic with 74 points in P10, just ahead of other people like Ayahuasca, Twiki, Scorpion, Nebrestrom, and Remote Banjo. In the constructors, we have Mercedes in P1 with 272 points and Alpine on 194. Alfa Romeo then on 172 points in P3 with Red Bull in P4 on 165. AlphaTauri on 121 points and McLaren 113, while Ferrari move up into P7 on 98 points. And we've got Williams and Haas level on points on 96, and Aston Martin of 84 points in P10. So, wow, Williams and Aston Martin aren't last here. It's Haas in between. So, yeah, looking at this result, I mean, Jesper's won again after Zandvoort. Alpine were doing bits this week, weren't they? P2 and P3 and fastest lap plus pole position.
Yeah. All you can ask for, really. Don't think they could have scored any more points, surely. So, yeah, great weekend for them. Actually, well, they're still quite far behind Mercedes, but they've now got a bigger gap. They were only 8 points ahead of Alfa Romeo. They are now, well, more than 8 points ahead. So,
More than 8. You heard it here first.
So, you know, a 1-2 obviously is the best way to boost your constructors' points. So I'm sure they'll be aiming to do that again next week, potentially. So,
yeah, definitely. And yeah, this one is also very interesting at the bottom because you've got Ferrari, Williams, Haas, and Aston Martin within 14 points. I mean, 2 of them we could expect to be at least in the bottom 4. But Ferrari and Haas have been nice and have given them a little bit of a battle as well. I mean, quite rare to see someone last with 84 points, really, isn't it? It's not that bad of a score Aston have, but I think they just need a bit more.
yeah. Always would like a couple more points. I think everyone who's racing can agree with that. But yeah, look, I hate to alarm you, but Williams haven't scored points in the last 2 rounds. So next week we could be seeing the very familiar sight of Williams and Aston Martin locking out the back 2 positions.
But Williams scored what?
In the last 2 races in this division either. So,
apparently they have. It looks like they've scored 13.
Well, it says Williams 96 for Zandvoort, Williams 96 for Japan. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. But we swiftly move on. Yeah, like you say, obviously.
That might be down to
Aston Martin have quite. Yeah. Aston Martin have quite a few points, despite them being in last. Obviously, AlphaTauri with 10 in Division 1. Williams with 43 in Division 2. Williams with 34 in Division 3. So they've almost got double those points. They probably have the points combined of the 3 divisions above them, of the constructor in last place for the 3 divisions, but don't think I explained that very well, but we move. Yeah, they've got quite a few points, but are still in last, so I think it's one of those classic examples of the points being quite evenly spread between the teams in this division, so always makes for close fights. But yeah, really, obviously Mercedes running away at the top, and then a bit of a gap between Red Bull and AlphaTauri in 4th and 5th. But other than that, yeah, everyone's quite close. So.
Yeah, I think we head over once more to the driver standings. I mean, we mentioned it before. Ron is now moved up into 3rd place, and his last 2 results have not been that great. It's been P6, P9, P4, and P8, which doesn't sound amazing, but that's probably what you need if you want to at least have a solid position in the championship, just picking up points week per week, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I don't think he had too much fun in Zandvoort with his best friend, Captain Daniel. There was a lot of tickets there, but yeah, maybe without those incidents, he could have even more. But yeah, obviously we know Ronnie's a good driver. He's been in GRL for a couple seasons now, and he's always been there or thereabouts in every division he's been in. He's been promoted to, I think, a couple of times last season. Well, or in season three, I should say. So he's back at the his winning ways, not winning ways because he hasn't won, but he's once again proven he's a strong driver. And yeah, I think we should keep an eye on Ronnie. I think it'll be well. I don't think he'll be able to get into first or second because there's a pretty big margin above him. So unless the two ahead of him have a very bad run of form, I think it'll be quite hard to catch them. But I think I can definitely see him extend his lead over P4 in the championship and get the very hard fought third place in the Division 4 title.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we know Ronnie's overall a very solid driver. Just it's going to be difficult to claw that big margin back. But yeah, we'll see, I guess. And that's Division 4 wrapped up as well. And we head over to Division 5. There weren't too many drivers this week, but it was Freezy who won in the end with a penalty removal ahead of Andrew and Uctus, which are the three podium sitters. And we've got Asteriad, Erna, McMessy, Equa, Diamond Miner, and Nabil Nu. In the Drivers' World Championship, we've got Andrew in P1 still with 128 points, Freezy on 106, ahead of McMessy on 95. We've got Drizzle on 78, Spald on 74, and Will on 50, so they've stayed the same as before. Ernaden on 47 points, Radix on 46, Patrick, I say this week, in P9 on 45 points, and Uctus and Alex PC with 43 points behind. In the team standings, Ferrari jump 2 positions and now lead the championship with 171 points. And we've got Alfa Romeo on 163 and Alfa Tauri on 159, with Mercedes on 133 and McLaren 124. Aston on 98 points, Alpine on 71, Aston Martin jumping up 2 positions, so from 10th all the way up to P8 with 65 points, Williams on 52, and Red Bull last on 51 points. I mean, Andrew was had a really good run of form recently, but seems like Freezy could turn that around a little bit by taking a couple of points into his championship lead and yeah, closing it down again a little bit.
Yeah, obviously, it's a strong weekend when you win the race, so we can't ignore Freezy. He's also in the championship fight. So yeah, Andrew's been keeping it clean the whole season, and because of that, he's I think had 3 race wins. Has he?
Two.
Andrew.
Because
I think
this would
Andrew's
have
at 3.
obviously been his third one.
Oh yeah, okay.
But it's got taken
So
off.
yeah, but obviously always keeps it clean. I think I remember this where he was running I think P4 at the start of the last lap, and
yeah.
what happened?
Bernard DNF
Someone,
and the other
yeah,
two ran out of fuel, which was
yes,
Jared
on
and
track, yeah.
Freezy.
No, not on track, but
He didn't win it on track
yeah,
but he won it on penalties, and then Freezy's
yeah,
pen got removed, which put Freezy into P1 for this race.
yeah. So, well, I'm sure Andrew loves a good GRL win, but obviously it wasn't meant to be this time. He still did a good job, and yeah, gained on the previous, runner-up of McMessy, and obviously lost a couple of points to Freezy. But yeah, I think it would be a good title battle between these two. I think Freezy has probably better raw pace, but probably I don't. I've seen he's gotten in a couple of incidents every now and again, so definitely more than Andrew, that's for sure. So
Yeah,
it'll be a good battle. I think McMessi is dropping away a little, and he's also switching input, so we might not see him in this division for a little while. Um, so yeah, like you said, probably didn't want to win the title anyways. He's too good. So, but you never know. If he makes a quick improvement, we could see him back, and with his 100 points, I'm sure he'll still have in this championship. He might be able to do something with that. So, yeah, we'll see.
yeah, for sure. I mean, if we look at these results from the season, it's quite interesting because Andrew usually is the kind of driver who avoids incidents really and just picks up a couple of points. But this season is, I mean, this season is done well, but at the start he wasn't too good to be honest. Because if you look at this, DNF for round one, DNF for round two, but then it went uphill with P1, P4, P3, P6, P1 again, P3, and P2. So he's really racking up the podiums now, which I think is crucial because back in Division 4 in Season 2 when he won the championship, that's exactly what gave him the championship, his race pace and winning race by race, just reducing the gap back in the day. So he's basically switched from the hunter to now being the hunted. And I think Freezy will probably prefer his role now in being the hunter. But what do you think? Is it better to lead the way and just play it a bit more calm and collected, or is it a bit of a stress if you know you've probably a driver just behind in the championship who might be a little bit quicker and could be a threat come the end of the season?
Yeah, I think it depends on the person really, because you know, some people perform better when they have a little bit of a margin, but some people also become a bit too conscious over that margin, and especially if there's the guy in second, if they think that they're not as quick as the driver in second, then yeah, that's when it can lead to moments where you can make a couple mistakes. Yeah, obviously depends on the person. I think me personally, if it was a small margin, the second, I'd be a little
Yeah,
nervous. But
like
if it was
this
like
one,
over a race win,
20
yeah,
points. Yeah.
yeah, I think I'd be a little nervous. But if it was more than a race win, I think I might perform a little better. I don't really know.
Well, you're
Uh,
like 80 points behind Snipes, and you can't complain about your performances.
yeah, I think. Well, seemingly in GRL, I've always been the one chasing down the people at the front. In season two, three, not 3.5 actually. 3.5, I was
The hunted.
yeah. Well, I was being hunted, but I don't know. I think
You couldn't see the
by the end of it,
hunters.
by the end of it, I was like, yeah, well, I just want even more points now. So you know, I just want to win by the biggest margin, despite the season being the shortest.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was my goal. But yeah,
I mean,
it depends on the person for
it
sure.
was until now. Yeah, it was. It was actually the biggest
Well,
margin.
we'll see. We'll see what happens at the end of this season. So
Yeah, well, Snipes don't perform too well, please. But yeah, we're in
yeah,
Division 5, not Division 1. But yeah, a couple other stats. Andros with the most podiums, but also on the Constructors' Championship. I mean, especially for the top, you've got three teams really close together within 12 points. I mean, AlphaTauri obviously struggled a little bit recently, and Alfa Romeo, yeah, they have McMessy, but seem to have a lack of teammate. Ferrari've got Andrew, but yeah, I mean, you probably got to raise the question: where's Haas in all this? Because they're behind Mercedes and McLaren. Does this maybe prove that Ferrari really needs a teammate to back him up in this championship?
Yeah, I think one big point probably is that I'm pretty sure at the start of the season Freezy was a reserve because
Yes.
that would not add up correctly. So, yeah, obviously, but I mean, I think a lot of people don't have teammates in this division, sadly. So,
Yeah, should change soon, hopefully.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this race was particularly poor because not even 2 races ago, in China there was quite a big grid. But
Yeah, true.
yeah, I think well, I think obviously it hurt Haas that they didn't have Freezy from the beginning. So but obviously now they have him. There's every chance that they will move up the grid in this sense. So they might, I'd say probably McLaren right now are probably the lowest position that is probably kind of in the title fight. They're not, well, they're pretty far off the lead, but they're not. It's like in another division that would probably be the gap between first and second.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I think Haas can with Freezy can definitely get up there. Whether they can fight for the title, I think it's possible because, well, even the gap between Haas and Ferrari is the gap between first and second in other divisions. But you know, the difference here is obviously Haas have a good top driver spearheading their points, so they might be able to, you know, move up. Obviously, AlphaTauri, I don't think have scored any points for the last 3 rounds. So, you know, obviously they will probably be looking to try and catch up to them within the next couple of rounds if that stays the same. And don't know how well McLaren and Mercedes are doing. Doesn't seem like they're doing incredibly. So, um, yeah, we will see. But I think Haas is one to look out for in this constructors' championship, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about Haas, I think we should head over to Division 6 because this is one division where Haas is one of the main protagonists, really. Because Cynthia got pole position and won the race once again from pole with J Street in P2. So the American driver with one of his best results in a long, long time, the best one this season for sure. Lexus then in P3, Barbarino in P4 for Red Bull, Azrael in P5, Kieran in P6, 10th Cannon in P7, and Lino in P8 with DNFs for Milkow, the championship leader, Matthew, Theodore, Liam, and Pat Pader. In the championship, this now reduces Milkow's championship lead a little bit. He still is the top of the field though with 139 points, and 10th Cannon on 113 with Lexus on 112 in P3, only 1 point behind. Cintium then jumps up 5 positions up into P4 in the championship. He's now on 81 points with Kieran UTM on 79 and Pat Pader on 75, dropping down 2 positions. J Street then jumping up 6 positions as well. This just shows how close this grid is as well, with 67 points for the Williams driver. Dazadon on 61 points, the second Alfa Romeo of Callum Ludlow, and Pierre Hayes on 60 points, rounding out the top 10. In the constructors, Alfa Romeo lead with 212 points, and we've got Haas on 194, McLaren on 162, AlphaTauri on 145, and then it gets even closer. Aston Martin on 126 points, Ferrari on 123, and Red Bull on 122, with Mercedes on 107, and Alpine on 101, and Williams once again sadly last on 95 points. We'll talk about this constructors later, but I mean, you can say what you want. He was a bit inconsistent at the start of the season, but Cynthia is trying his best to create the biggest comeback we might have ever seen in such a low division.
I mean, it's the bright situation all over again. The man only wins or DNFs.
It is crazy,
So
isn't
yeah,
it? 5
he's
DNFs in 11 rounds, but also 3 wins.
he's had an adventurous season, hasn't he? Really, it's the Pasta Maldonado 2012 season in GRL. Really, every single race they're doing well, and they either get a really good result or crash out of the race. You know, the wise man himself must once said, "I crash." So
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm not too sure if 10th Cannon is the number one driver because, yeah, he's got good race pace, but Sintium is coming with huge steps. And when I say huge, I mean huge. I mean, he's still like 50 points off, which I think we can both agree on is anything else than a small margin because we obviously know Milk Cow can win races and drive very well. But with two quali bands coming up, do you think Cintium has really got a second chance in this championship and can not only go for his teammate 10th Cannon and Lexus, but also go for that Alfa Romeo in P1?
yeah, I think he definitely can. I mean, obviously, looking at his results, obviously recently he's been strong with 2 race wins. I think that, we might be quick to jump on the, this guy is crazy good and too good for this division train, but obviously, when you've only won 2 races in a row, obviously great feat, but you've also only finished 2 races in a row, there's just as high a chance that he could DNF once again. But if he's, improving as a driver, he can finish the next race. If he finishes the next race, I think me and you can both agree, it will probably be at least a podium with the pace he seems to have at the moment. So, if he can keep finishing these races and have the pace he has, I could definitely see him challenging for the title. Another one of these drivers who seems to have made a large improvement in recent races, but I think also Milk Cow obviously with his 2 quali bans. Obviously he served one. Has he served one this week, or did he get them this week? I can't
He
remember.
got them this week for
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Hungary and Portugal.
So yeah, obviously not ideal for him, but it was not that long ago since we were saying, well, he looks unstoppable. So
Yeah,
obviously momentum's now in Cintium's court, but there's just as big a chance that after his quali belts most likely, Milk Cow will be right up there challenging him again. So yeah, we'll see. But I think one thing we should point out is Cintium's quali laps are absolutely incredible. Really, they've been pretty much, you know, like that would be probably top three in 2 or 3 divisions above him. So
yeah.
yeah, some
Oh my
crazy
God, yes,
times.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
Bright is a renowned master of qualifying, and I think he wouldn't. He was only 3 tenths off Bright's Division 4 pole time. So
I mean,
yeah, that's pretty impressive.
I think I've figured something out. I think Milkauer is not going to be in this championship fight anymore. I think we had it before. 10th Cannon's going to finish second in this championship, and the other guy in the Haas, like Echo was, Cintium, is going to win this championship. It's meant
Yeah,
to be 10th Cannon and the guy in the Haas.
yep, yeah. What
Well,
can I
not
say,
he
really?
could be the guy in the Haas himself, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I said Cintium is really on a roll, but as you said about the hype train about like getting promoted, he's way too quick. I think it's really difficult to figure it out because Cintium, if you can't finish 4 races or so in a row, that basically shows that you're pushing too hard. Most obviously there can be crashes, obviously, but it's obviously if you're quick enough, you probably won't have too many crashes because you're gonna be at the top. and he also won't make too many mistakes. So I think at the start of the season he wasn't too strong, but it might have been like last season, a couple of divisions where driver just suddenly improves and finds pace, which has just happened. But yeah, his quality times are pretty strong, but I think the main points are still scored in the race, and if you can improve your pace, then that probably should happen in the race pace, because it's obviously the most important thing. And I mean, if you qualify in pole and have the best race pace, I can't see an issue why you wouldn't want to challenge for the title. But yeah, one other thing on the Constructors' Championship, I looked at it earlier, and I mean, you can be harsh on Williams, but they've scored 95 points. It's not amazing, but it's far off horrific. And they are almost 30 points or so only off P5. I mean, well, that's what you call tough luck, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about division. I think it was four. Like
Yeah,
Aston Martin having a lot of points despite being less. These guys have even more points, and I think, well, looking at their points tallies, with the points they have, I think in a lot of divisions, like for example, here in Division 5 I'm looking at, they would be P7, not P10, or if we go to Division 1, let's have a look. They would be in P9, so still not ideal, but
yeah, it's
yeah,
with
they've
like
got quite a lot
100
of points.
points everywhere now. You probably are in a solid position. Yeah, but
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think another thing we should mention as well is they did score 20 points this race, which is really strong. I think that's down to J Street,
yeah, he's
if I'm not
the really
mistaken.
good race there.
Yeah, and they're now only 6 points behind Alpine, who scored zero, and
Mercedes.
Mercedes, who scored zero. So hopefully, J Street can get another strong performance and they can move up into eighth next week because yeah, obviously, a lot of old names we've talked about today in this podcast, and J Street is one of the absolute OG members. So it's always good to
Yeah.
see him doing well, and yeah, I think we're all rooting for him to get another second place or even first place next week, and carrying Williams into P8.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Chase Street has been around for a very long time, and obviously would be good to see him winning once again after he only did it once before in Division 4 in Season 2. So yeah, fingers crossed for the American driver. And yeah, from a pretty interesting championship, I think we can now head over to the best one, which is Division 7, where it was GRL Moss in the McLaren. You're going to be happy about that one. Wins from P7 on the grid. Gaza Buchanan in P2 and Leo Hamilton in P3. So Lewis Hamilton's apparently Australian brother is cooking indeed. Monopole Monster in P4 with, and please listen, ladies and gentlemen, Sparky in P5, his best result in his GRL career. So he's carrying McMess's team in this division. Ace Guy then in P6 with fastest lap, and DNFs were Axe Flashes, Sion Static, Marley, and Blast Alpha. In the driver standings, this means Sion still leads with 118 points, but Gas Buchanan now in P2 with 108.5 and Leo Hamilton on 106. Axe Flasher, who led the championship for a couple times this season, now in P4 on 105.5 points, and Logan J on 93. Stuart then on 92.5 points, also he was leading the championship at one point, and now he's in P6. Moss then in P7 on 92 points, Browns the Buns in P8, Mike Reid in P9 on 70, and Ace Guy in P10 with 65 points, while Sigramato and Sparky are level on points in P11. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren stay in P1 with 201 points due to the win of Moss, while Williams sit on 199 points and pass Haas, who are now on 175.5. Ferrari then on 164.5 points and Alpine on 121.5. Alfa Romeo and Mercedes then both moving up a position on 118 points, and Red Bull on 109.5, moving down 2 positions. AlphaTauri then on 96.5 points, and Aston Martin on 29.5. So, Moss has won the race because we don't have enough championship contenders at this rate. We need another one. That makes it 8. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what a championship, really. It's crazy. I mean, looking at this race, there's a lot of big names that DNF'd. Obviously championship leader and previous championship leader, both DNFing from first and third, so great grid positions for them, but they just couldn't convert it, and it's just let another driver join the top group, pretty much all separated by one race win. So yeah, it's a crazy championship, and it seems to be rewarding drivers that are consistent, like Leo Hamilton, who he's really making a charge now. He was quite a few points behind not too long ago, but look at
Yeah.
him now. He's in P3 in the championship, and at this rate, as early as next race, it could be leading it. So, but with the rate this championship's going, Sparky's going to win the next race, and he's going to be in the title fight. So
I mean,
it's absolute crazy, this
we would
division.
love that, wouldn't we? But I
Who
mean,
wouldn't?
yeah.
The goat himself.
I mean, Cian was always there. Said Axflash, Logan, Stueb, Brown's the bands lately. Was there about Moss now? I think we could have seen it from Leo Hamilton that he was coming up the ranks because I think he had a really good couple of races recently. But I'm sorry if I've just not looked at the table in the last 2 weeks properly. But where the hell has Gaza Buchanan come from? I did not have him on my notes at all, and now he's second.
Yeah. I mean, he was second in the race, I believe, and he's
Yeah.
now second in the title race. So he's moved up. I mean, this is crazy. He's moved up. What? How many positions? I think it's been cropped off, but I think he's moved up 4. Is he? Yeah, 4 positions, 5 positions. Yeah.
think I think he's 4 or 5 position. Wait, actually, I can check. If you give me a few seconds, and if I would turn on my Wi-Fi, that would certainly help the scenario. But yeah, I really did not have him. Yeah, he was P6.
Yeah.
P6.
I
Oh,
mean, incredible, really. Yeah. So it's a crazy championship. I scored in Division 1 26 points this weekend, and I didn't move up a position. This guy scored 20 and has moved up 6. So
maybe
this shows
you
how
should drive
close
in
this
Division
championship
7.
is.
You would
Yeah,
surely move up a couple positions if you win in Division 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, also all the different nations we've got. Brad Stevens and Logan are from the US. Moss is driving for England. Stu and X Flasher for France. So there's some rivalry going on, I guess. Leo Hamilton from Australia. Gaza Buchanan apparently from Ukraine. I doubt it a little bit. And Cian from the Netherlands. So yeah, great mix of nations. Uh,
International championship going on here.
a proper
So
championship. It's not just Britain versus the rest of Europe. World Championship. And before we head over to the overall constructors, I mean, this makes sense now because it looked like Aston Martin was quite far ahead of Williams overall, but Yeah, Williams are
Yeah,
just 170 points clear in Division 7 off them.
yeah, yeah. Um, that definitely plays a part, I think. So, I mean, Division 7 are carrying Williams, aren't they? I think they've scored probably about a third of their points from this division. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, a third of your points when there are in one of the divisions, when there are seven divisions, probably isn't the way you want to go about your ambitions for the overall Constructors' Championship. But yeah, I know
Yeah.
Williams, they seem to have quite an interesting approach to their overall constructors, and it's not really working out for them.
I mean, those guys have to pray that Leo Hamilton does not lose interest in the game. Otherwise, they might be in huge trouble. I mean, not like Aston Martin, even then would be anywhere close to them. They still need to score like 160 points, which, when you have 29.5, I think is the main issue. But yeah, I mean, McLaren really strong as well, kept themselves up there despite Leo Hamilton on the podium, but it was just Moss winning the race. Um, but also, if you look at the podiums in this division, we've got Zian, Leo Hamilton, Axe Slasher, and Logan on 4 podiums. So 4 drivers with 4 podiums. We've got Gaza, Stewart, Moss, and A Sky. And then with one each, we've got Will MCM, Ed, Reese, Dansky Man, Tiber Goat, and Nicky W. We've got 14 podium sitters. That is unreal. And one of them that hasn't gotten a podium is Browns the Buns, who's also in the championship fight. So if he starts picking up a couple of podiums, he's also going to be even further ahead. And also we saw Mike Reed can win races. So that's going to be, I think, an amazing end to the season. Second third of the season, I should say. But well, I'm already scared of the championship finale of this division because whoever has to do those calculations is a poor man. Because I
Yeah,
mean, that's going to be interesting to figure out. But
yeah,
yeah, also 6 race winners. I mean, it's beautiful, just beautiful. But before I fall in love with a Division 7 standing spreadsheet, I think we have a detailed look at the overall standings. Looking at the drivers, top three now are P3 Snipes on 169 points, Gente Bars on 179, and Venicus on 184. So despite joining late, he has scored the most points. If we look at gained positions, 10th Cannon still got the most gained positions with 83 from McMessin 59 and Lexus on 55. At the overall Constructors' Championship, though, over to this one because this is what we are the most interested about. So, Mercedes lead the way still with 1,332 points. And we've got Alfa Romeo on 1,224 points and Alfa Tauri on 1,031.5 points. 1 point only ahead of Alpine on 1,030.5 points. Then we've got Ferrari on 988.5 points and Haas on 982.5 points. So only 6 points splitting them two. McLaren then on 965 points in P7 and Red Bull on 904.5 points in P8. Aston Martin on 734.5 points in P9 and Williams on 682 points, still in last. Looking at the constructor standings compared to last week, obviously Mercedes still lead the way from Alfa Romeo, but AlphaTauri, I mean they've passed Alpine once again, so it seems to be a really close fight between those two. Ferrari have passed Haas again, and I mean, looking at it, I think McLaren are really like showing their pace in the last 2 weeks. I mean, they're not only keeping up, they're always slightly gaining on them because obviously Haas and Ferrari always claw each other's points. But also, I mean, Aston Martin didn't have a bad weekend, did they? What's your biggest surprise if you look at those changes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking through them. I don't really think. I think we mentioned this. No one really had a standout weekend.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
I think Mercedes scored the most points, but they only scored 100 points. Which, in the past, like even just last week, McLaren, we scored a good 160 points almost, I
Yeah,
think.
exactly.
Um, and the week before we scored a lot as well. I think, Alfa Romeo one week almost, I think they scored 100, 179, I think that is. One week as well, not too long ago. Um, when we've seen massive jumps like that, but, this week, um, no team has done that. We've had some, like, Alpine have had well, not an awful, but not a very strong weekend. Williams, as always, not the best weekend either, but I think better than previous weeks. Aston Martin actually, I think they scored the second most points, did they?
Yeah, I think as
So
well. Red Bull didn't have a good
yeah,
one with
yeah.
50.
Red Bull did shocking, yeah. Um,
I mean,
Haas and
Alfa
Ferrari
Romeo
actually
is
didn't do
not
too bad.
amazing. Alfa Romeo didn't do amazing, but compared to the others, it's not awful.
Yeah, it's been a weird weekend, and I don't really know why. Obviously, there was no sprints this time, so you'd kind of
I
expect,
think I
for
know
example,
what it was. I think there were less like lower grids this week, therefore also less
yeah,
point
yeah, yeah,
scorers, therefore also more DNFs because Japan, the good old
yeah,
wall triggers the good old league racer.
yeah. Turn one, yeah.
Turn one, yes. You might as well brush the inside wall with sideswipe too, It happens from
Yeah.
time to time. I know that from my own experience. That was a shocking experience. Um, Mercedes have had a couple of podiums though this week because Alpine still have the most podiums with 27, but Mercedes, Alfa Romeo, and AlphaTauri all have 26, and Williams have 14 in ninth, and Aston Martin have got 11. So they need to be careful. I said that ART do not pass them at some stage, which would certainly not be ideal. Looking at the game positions,
Yeah.
Ferrari still gained the most with 226, and Mercedes have gained 207 ahead of Haas. Williams have gained the lowest amount with 85. Well, you would think if you have about if you're usually a bad, you start quite far behind, you could gain more positions, but they don't do it like this. Let's have another look at the fastest laps. So Alfa Romeo have got 13 fastest laps, so 5 more than any other team really. Williams got 3, so yeah. As said, not too many changes really this week. I mean, we can have a look at some others like poles. As said, they're very interesting. Haas have got the most pole positions. I mean, have Haas got that many qualifying drivers? I mean, you could say Cintium probably.
Yeah. Yeah, he's helped them out, that's for sure.
But I wouldn't say that many like quali merchants probably at us. I mean, 10th cannon isn't one, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. He's made up most of their gained positions, probably. Um,
Yes, definitely.
I mean, who they have? Jam is a notable driver, but I don't know how many poles
Maybe
he's had.
maybe Freezy.
Yeah, Freezy, of course. I don't know who races for
I mean,
Division
I'm
1
sure
either.
Captain
So,
Daniel and Daniel Jack have not got poles. Well, I'm sure, but I couldn't remember it. Let's put it this way. Maybe the odd reserve. Well, yeah, but anyways, very interesting. I mean, I would have thought maybe AlphaTauri, like they're second, like they've got the Venicus and boosted, and a couple of other solid drivers. Yeah, Mercedes only got 7, and yes, Aston Martin only got 3, and yeah, Haas have also got the most race wins. They've got
Wow.
13 poles and 13 wins, which is
Good conversion rate, to be fair.
yes. Aston Martin have got 2, so they need to work on that one.
Yep.
I mean, Ferrari have only got 3, which is not really good. I mean, also Mercedes have only got
That, 2 of them are from Andrew, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know. I would like to have many things, said some famous driver. But
Well, who was the other one? I'm just trying to remember. Who was the other Ferrari?
Mark Sosa, probably.
No, he won in the Red Bull at Monza. It was
Oh,
not
okay.
Division 7. In Division 6, they've had Callum and Lena who didn't win either. In Division 5, obviously, can only be Andrew. In Division 4, who did they have in Division 4? They had Remote Banjo and an
Yeah,
inactive
he's a
driver.
strong driver, but
Then they had Yasser Lloyd Cole. Must have been Division 1. This is a welcome to GRL conspiracies.
it always seems to happen at the overall.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Ferrari have got a race win. You've heard it here first.
Yeah, they've magicked one up somewhere. So
Looking through this, it wasn't okay. I'm looking through the divisions now. So Ferrari have not won in Division 1. They've had none in Division 2. I would be surprised. Can't be Lloyd. In Division 3, I could see a Division 3 reserve. To be honest, they always have a couple. Yes, and it was in.
oh, okay.
So who could have been this then? Oh yeah, of course. Mr. Qualiban. It's not Lloyd. It's IoT Apex.
Oh, Apex won the race. I didn't even know he did.
Canada. Yeah, I completely forgot that one.
Mm.
Well, I said I forgot, but if you told me now, like, do you remember
Yeah,
Apex
which
won the
division
race?
again? 4 or 3?
That was 4 back then. It's now 3.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I couldn't name you the 3 Williams wins though. One of them got to be Leo Hamilton.
Yeah.
Aston Martin is on. So this is turning into a quiz at this stage. Let's go to one of our favorite statistics: completed races. Mercedes
Well.
128 and Alfa Romeo 125. Williams have completed the 5th most races with 116.
And they've
Well,
got the most DNFs. Well,
well,
they haven't done very well in those races, let's say.
retired. Yeah, they've had the most DNFs. That is
Yeah.
question. Yeah, Williams have had 50 DNFs. Mercedes had 20. So, well, we had that statistic last week. So this means Mercedes have not retired, I think, from a session this week, which is quite remarkable.
Yeah. Good stuff, all committed, you know.
Williams probably
Can't really complain.
Williams probably raised the DNF rate by like 5.
Yeah, well, you know.
McLaren had 41 DNFs, which is not great at all.
Yeah. Luckily, I was not one of them, you know.
Yes, indeed, that would have been a shame. But yeah, I mean, only thing that's left is fastest sprint laps. So the most important statistic.
Do you even get a point for that? I don't know.
Nope.
Yeah.
Just for glory. Oh my, what purchasing. So look at this then. Fastest sprint laps. Red Bull and Alfa Romeo P1 and P2, they've got 3. In P3 we've got AlphaTauri with 2, same for Ferrari in P4. And then with 1 fastest sprint laps we have the great Formula 1 teams of McLaren, Alpine, Mercedes, Dams, Campos, Trident, Josie. Well, the teams that have got none are Williams, Haas, and Aston Martin.
Sure. Well, Haas is a bit of a surprise, actually, but
they get pole and wins, but no fastest sprint laps. I mean,
yeah, well,
can anything beat a fastest sprint lap?
Yeah, I think we should make the fastest sprint lap like 100 extra points next season, you know?
A quality for the driver you can choose.
Wow,
Sounds good.
would be interesting, that's for sure.
Well, yeah. So this basically was it from the podcast of the land of sushi and wasabi, as we said previously.
Mm.
This was the Japanese Grand Prix, basically, to Zuko. So I think overall quite enjoyable weekend, even though the numbers weren't, let's say, blistering. Or the
Yeah,
numbers.
people need to stop playing FIFA, you know? They'll get bored of it in a couple weeks' time,
Yeah, yeah,
so.
yeah. And then we're gonna say, no, sorry, we're playing off one. We can't reply. So, no. Next week obviously is gonna be the Hungarian Grand Prix. So once again a pretty I would say dangerous circuit because there's obviously room for error, and if you make one too many mistakes, then you probably going to do what Cortes did at France, and that's facing a wall.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually what nobody wants to see, but I would say, especially at the end of the first sector, like middle sector, there are some pretty tragic corners at Hungary, which could easily ruin your weekend. But we hope, obviously, and assume everyone will keep it safe, nobody will make contact, and nobody will crash. They'll all drive in a straight line and be just very kind to each other. Well, we'll see a couple of straight lines and DNFs, I guess, after I said that, but we'll find out next week. But yeah, that was it from me and Blade for another podcast I said for the Japanese Grand Prix. And we'll see you for the Hungarian Grand Prix podcast next week when GRL returns.